Hi, good afternoon and welcome to ACER Lunch and Learn event broadcast across Australia and New Zealand to Connecting Up and TechSoup New Zealand. My name's Nathan. I'm the marketing coordinator for Connecting Up and TechSoup New Zealand, and hopefully you can hear me okay in this loud group of people. You should hopefully be able to see us, the webcam for the live stream, and we're about to start our live event, and I'm going to hand over to our MC shortly. Thank you for joining us for this event, which is a test for doing some live streaming, so we can bring more of these events as we hope to roll them out across the country. We can still make them available to anybody wherever they are, while also making to a centre near you across Australia and New Zealand, with the support of our sponsors. So, yeah, big thank you to ACER and Endpoint Protector today for helping us put on this event. So bear with us. We'll be one moment or two, and then we'll start the live proceedings, and we've got the live stream video so you can see the room and the presenter, but we've got the slides there, and we'll have a recording available. Hopefully the audio will work fine for you, and all the slides will be available, and we are recording. We also are testing Facebook live stream. If for any reason there's any issues with the tech side of things here, you can also check out Facebook live stream as well. So thank you for joining us, and we'll be underway in just a moment. And also, if you've got any questions, please do put them in the question box. I will be facilitating the questions with our presenter live, so we'll be able to make those happen as a group. So yes, please do interact and be involved, and we will pass those questions on when we get to the Q&A section soon. And the presentation is in two parts. There'll be the first part. We will be having a break as the food is served here in Adelaide. So if you're joining us over your lunch break or to have a toilet break, and then the second part, then the Q&A following that. So thank you for joining us, and yes, we'll be underway shortly.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you. My name's Andy Mulvaney from Connecting Up, and I've got the short straw to do the emceeing part of the process, so please bear with me, I'm not very good at this. But before we start, I'd just like to acknowledge that we are meeting on the lands of the Kaurna people, and would like to pass respect to their elders, both past and present. So welcome to everyone. Thank you very much again, as I said, for coming. It's kind of you to give up a few hours out of your day to come along and spend some time with us. We're running this short event today. We'll be talking about how to prevent a data disaster, and we have Adam at the front of the room here from EMT, who is an expert on this, who will be taking us on a bit of a journey of discovery. Adam, is that a fair way of putting it? I'd also like to thank ACER as our prime sponsor of the event today, so thanks very much to our good friends at ACER for effectively paying for our lunch. So thanks, guys, we appreciate that. They've been a good partner of ours, recently new, and joined up with the Connecting Up family over the last few months, and really a good supporter of our sector. My phone's gone to sleep. Just a little bit of housekeeping. So toilets are just down the corridor here for those who haven't found them. For those that haven't put their mobiles on silent or turned them off, if you could please do that, that'd be very kind. I'm sure I'll come up with an appropriate fine for those phones that go off during the session. And Matt, at the back of the room, I'm looking at you, mate. And obviously evacuations, back out the way we came, both doors that way. We can actually get out that way, but it's a bit complicated, so I'll probably be running that way if I were you guys. Just to introduce a couple of other folks in the room, we've got Nathan from Connecting Up, who is the audiovisual maestro at the back of the room. We are trying something, it is the inaugural event, but we're trying something a bit interesting, so please, a little bit of patience would be really appreciated, because we're actually running this session as a webinar as well. So for folk who are in Adelaide, who want to be able to find out what we're doing, they're coming in over the web for a live webinar. And we're also Facebook live streaming this, which we haven't done before, so we've got absolutely no idea how that's going to go. So if your phone's on silent and you'd prefer to watch this session on Facebook from your table, please feel free. I know there's a few social media folk out there that are going to want to do that, and that's quite good. Also in the room at the back, we have Lauren in the white shirt. Wave, Lauren. Lauren will be doing a little bit of ASA talk for us towards the end of the session. We have Adam at the front of the room from EMT, who is the main presenter. Who else have we got in the room? Peter, are you still here? Peter is about and is on the phone, which is unsurprising for Peter. We have Matt Nolan at the back of the room as well, from EMT Distribution. And next to Matt is Pankaj, who's an executive manager from Connecting Up, who's come along just to make sure that we do everything right. So for those who found a coffee and tea at the back as well, soft drinks. If you do want anything alcoholic, it is available at the bar, but that would obviously be at your own cost. So please enjoy today. We hope it's valuable. Any feedback, positive or negative, we'd really appreciate as well, because it's the first time we've done it, and we're hopeful that this will be useful and it's something we can do again. But thanks very much, and I'd like to introduce Adam Hack from EMT Distribution to talk about how you guys can prevent a data disaster. I can't say that fast. That's it.
All right. So thank you, everyone. As you can see, preventing a data disaster is a talk I've given once before about basically giving a bit of an idea of what's out there, what we're trying to mitigate against, and just giving you some basic tools to find out how you're going to go about sort of preventing data loss and people running off with data they shouldn't be. So just to give you a bit of an overview to start with, so it's very high level. I'm not going to scare off anybody with some really high sort of in-depth IT knowledge, but we're covering from basically general IT skills up to your standard IT admin. I've written it to address security at a high level. Again, hopefully to give you the tools to address DLP in your NFP. And just for a reference, some of the data I've taken from here is from, there's a semantic internet threat report that they've written for the data for this year. So it's fairly current what we're going to have a look at. And so we've broken it into two pieces as well. So the first piece is just going to be a bit of an idea of what's out there, and the second piece is the tools, or one of the tools we can use to mitigate against it. So just for a bit of background on, I guess, where I'm from and who I am. So I work for a company called EMT Distribution. We're just down in Unley on King William Road. We're based in Adelaide. This is where our main office is. We focus on the Australian Signals Directorate Top 35. What that is they're basically an arm of the Department of Defence, and they have been tasked with the job of preventing, I guess, data exfiltration in government. So at the moment, they've got this list of top 35 strategies, and the top 4 is what they say mitigates against about 80 to 85% of all threats that are out there. So it's mandatory in federal government. It's becoming mandatory down at a state level. And also we're finding now that people who interact with government in some sort of, I guess, capacity are being expected to at least know about this and apply some of the strategies they have as well. We've worked closely with Connecting Up for a couple of months now with a couple of different products and trying to help basically bring security to everybody. Because I mean, we deal with federal government, we deal with large customers, but at the end of the day, it's everybody as a whole that needs to sort of take security seriously to mitigate against the threats that are out there. And a bit about me. So I'm also from Adelaide. Pre-sales, solutions engineer, IT, technical support, a bit of everything at EMT. I've been in IT for about 10 years, on and off doing other things as well. I started at Adam Internet, which is now TPG. And yes, that is my real last name. I get that asked all the time. As you can imagine, Adam from Adam Internet with the last name Hack has been something I've heard many times before. So anyway, so why should we take this seriously is the first question we really have. And again, taken from that report I was talking about before, so in 2015, we saw about 429 million identities were exposed, and that was up 23% from 2014. And something just to be mindful of that, so this is just the reported breaches as well. There's 113 breaches of people that basically reported to mandatory government departments and things like that, where they've had to report, they've had a breach, what the situation there was, and approximately how many identities in those cases have been exposed. Now, 113 of those didn't actually give a figure, and taken into account, we'll probably be looking at about more than 500 million identities out there. So that's accounts that have gone, they've been taken, they're on the black market, they're being sold, whatever. Scary thing about that, you can see down there, 17 times Australia and New Zealand combined is how many identities have been taken in 2015. So it is out there. One of the examples I like to give. So Bureau of Meteorology, I'm not sure people have heard about what they've had in the last sort of 2 years, I guess it's been going on now, but there's a hacking attempt on the Bureau of Met back in 2015 is when they reckon it happened, and it targeted their their supercomputer. Now, the interesting thing about the Bureau of Meteorology, questions were coming up for a lot of people as to why attack Bureau of Met. The information is publicly available on the internet. They're not hiding anything. You go on the Bureau of Meteorology's website, they've got all the data there, open for everyone to see. So why attack Bureau of Met? And what it was is that it wasn't the Bureau of Meteorology that was the end point. What we actually found in 2016 is that they were using it as a hot point to someone else. So Bureau of Meteorology, obviously, they have connections into the Department of Defence, Austrade, the RAF, because they're presenting their data to Department of Defence so they can use strategies for moving of troops and things like that. RAF use it, obviously airlines, aircraft as well, where they're moving it. So it wasn't the Bureau of Meteorology specifically. I'm sure they found some nice things there that they would have been nice to have, but it was actually the ability to then hop into these more secure government departments, which they wouldn't have been able to attack directly. So what are we talking about here? And this is when we talk about NFPs. So I guess a lot of people look at their data and they sort of go, well, why are we a target? We've got nothing here that's of any value. And it may be that your data is publicly available. It might be readily accessible, but it's not only your data, but it's who you have access to and who you have connections into as well. It's to do with your partnerships, it's to do with joint efforts. And again, as I said before, increasingly now we're seeing that government departments and sort of large organisations don't even want to deal with the smaller guys unless they've got some strategies in place, because they're worried. We've done some work with a company over in America just recently, the big sort of audiovisual company, and they were doing some work with someone down here in Australia, and they came to us because they weren't able to even get the contract to work with them without having a solution in place for data loss mitigation, because they were that worried that the data they were handling could get out. So it's just a key point, and we'll touch on it again as we go along, but it's not your data, it could be anything that you have. So I guess we're talking about these threats and what's out there, but what actually are they? Because they could be anything. And I understand some people, there's obviously a range of different levels of interest in IT and security and that sort of stuff. So I've sort of broken it down into the typical things we see. So you got your typical virus, Trojan worm. That's something the news picks up quite a bit. You see that quite a lot around. These are your typical sort of viruses that people I'm sure are quite familiar with. We've got I say new ransomware. These are the crypto lockers, the BitLockers, the Cryptsies and all that sort of stuff that will pop up and lock all the data that's on your machine and ask you for a payment to unlock it. We're seeing a lot of these now, and they generally come in via email, but we are finding just recently that USB devices, people are leaving USBs on the street with malicious files, and people are picking them up, plugging them into their computer. Off we go. So, new ransomware, it's been around for quite a while actually. In 2008 it was first seen, but it's really taken off recently because they're getting a lot of money from doing it. APTs, talk for another day. This is what you'll hear when they talk about the Bureau of Met. The only reason I put it in here is because they're called advanced persistent threats, and basically that means someone gets into a network and they sit there for a long period of time, slowly siphoning data off. So these are typically state-sponsored, so country-sponsored people sitting in there siphoning data off and keeping a connection open for years, 2 years. I think I've seen one that was 4 years they've been sitting in a network pulling data off. And data exfiltration, which is the one that we're going to really sort of bed into for the rest of this. This is, as you can see there, maliciously, innocently. It can be by an employee, it could be someone just walking in off the street. This is basically data that's leaving your network, and this could be via USB, email, uploading it to a website. I guess one I'll touch on with the interesting thing there about the website is the Red Cross blood service. I'm not sure if anyone's heard of recently, just in the last couple of weeks. Yeah. So background for that, in case people aren't aware, they basically, the latest report I read just this morning was that there was a backup made of the personal data that the the Red Cross hold for all of their blood donations. Someone took an unauthorized backup and stored it publicly, or I guess outside of their network where the security implementation wasn't perfect. Someone actually contacted one of the other companies out there on Twitter and let them know that, hey, I've just found my details and my wife's details in your database. It's out there, people can pull this data down. They sent it to one of the bodies in Australia that looks after cyber threat mitigation, and they've obviously pulled it down. But data exfiltration is, I guess it's key, because now we're going to find out, they say that it was all sort of someone just copied a database they weren't supposed to, that sort of stuff. So it was probably innocent. They didn't mean to put it out there publicly, but they obviously didn't have a strategy in place to mitigate against this, and now they're in the news. So just going to break them out individually quickly. So your typical virus, ransomware. So this is just sort of an overview of what they are, so people know what a virus is, but how do they actually work? So really basically the way these work are, there is programs that you have, there's holes in their code. So when obviously these programs are written, they're running a bunch of code. People go out and find ways to break these programs, and so that they can inject their own malicious files and viruses, and they get in past your antivirus and that sort of stuff. So that's how a software vulnerability, I guess your viruses and Trojans get in, and most ransomware takes advantage of this. So you browse to a website, there's an ad sitting there that has a malicious payload built into it, and just by looking at the ad, I think JamieOliver.com was one where their website had been hacked about 3 times, and every time you went onto their website, they'd give you an ad that would pop up, and it would search your computer as you're looking at the ad to find any of these vulnerabilities, and then pull down a file if it could get in, and it would bypass your AV and bypass everything. So, scary picture. I'm not sure if has anyone seen not before? So this is that ransomware I was talking about. Basically, you open a file you're not supposed to, or you go to a website you're not supposed to. This will jump on your computer, and it will encrypt everything on your computer. And by everything, I mean it'll go through and encrypt your documents, your PDFs, your pictures, everything it can find. It'll lock them down and then pop you up this lovely message that basically asks you pay us money or you lose your files. Now, there are a couple of things to ponder on this. I guess if your organisation, NFP, was hit tomorrow with one of these lockers, so if someone, and it happens regularly, I've spoken to people that have had these lockers 3 times in a week, because they go in, they clear them up, and then someone else clicks on the Australia Post is a good example. quite often people will get these malicious Australia Post emails that they don't have anything waiting for them, but they still click it. Happens quite regularly. And also now we're seeing power bills as well. So AGL bills coming through that look like a legitimate bill. People click on the link to have a look at their bill, and next minute that wonderful red box pops up. So something to ponder. You get locked today, tomorrow. Would you lose your data? Do you have good backups is the first thing to wonder. What would it cost you to recover? So this is not only, I guess, from a monetary point of view, but you see now hospitals and things have had to close down and cancel operations because they've been hit with these sorts of viruses and ransomware. And it's not just a monetary figure, but it's the public perception of your business, your NFP. What will it cost you in the long run, and whether people trust the data with you. So Red Cross, again, is a good example. They're pleading with their people to trust us. You know, it's all being fixed. Please, we need the donation still, and they do. So something just to keep in the back of your mind there. Would you pay the ransom? So the ransom typically is about $300 to $500 US. So it's not a whole lot, and if you haven't got backups, it's probably not that much. So, but can you guarantee you get your data back? So there are plenty of people that do get their data back. I'm sure there are plenty of people that don't get their data back as well. And that's why ransomware has just taken off in the last year, because they're making money off this, hand over fist. Right? People are getting locked every day and handing $500 US over to them to get their data back. Most of the time they're actually doing it because it's good for their business model. For people to go, oh, well, I paid last time, so I'll pay again, and they get the data back, and round they go. And some of these people have set up help desks and email addresses and phone numbers you can call for help on how to make these payments. So they're taking it pretty seriously, and that's why you're only going to see more of it as we go along, because it's working for them. Real question is, I guess, is paying the ransom funding crime as well? And this is a question that may come up as we go down the track, because you've got insurance and things like that. They may pay out, but if you're found to be paying these ransoms and it's funding crime, maybe they won't pay out. It's just something to keep in the back of your mind. So last sort of piece before we hit the part 2, but data exfiltration. So it's what we're going to focus on for the rest of this. So pretty graph. Unauthorized transfer of sensitive information. So you can see there's a couple, we've sort of broken it down into the top causes of data breaches by incidents. Attackers in 2015, 46%, give or take. Accidentally made public is another one there. But insider theft, so we don't typically see people maliciously running off a file. It's generally accidentally made public. But another big one there is also to the theft or loss of a computer. So what we're seeing here is that 53%, so a larger portion of the data loss is attributed to the employees of the business, not to people maliciously attacking them. And this is, again, you're just accidentally being made public or losing a computer or a USB drive, which is easy. I mean, you go through a airport scanner and you leave it behind, that sort of stuff. So you see here a couple of examples of what these mean. So, sending it to the wrong person. The countless amount of times I've had emails sent to me that aren't supposed to be for me, they're for another business. So, as a security person, I email them back and let them know. But there are probably plenty of people out there that sort of look at it and ignore it, but could go to the wrong person. And it's now they're out there in public when it wasn't supposed to. Uploaded to websites, public folders, loss of a drive, as I said, falls out of your pocket or you leave it behind at the airport. And insider theft. It's there, it's worth mentioning, disgruntled employees or another company paying someone to steal some data. And it does happen occasionally, as you can see. But what we need to be mindful of is it does happen, and it happens all the way up the corporate tree. I put that there. There was this story I've been told, well, not a story, it is real. It was basically a data breach, and the CEO paid someone to come in and find out who's letting this data out, what's happened. So they went through and they did the process, and it took them a couple of weeks. And they came back and they said, yep, we found out who it was. And obviously the CEO wants to know who was it. Turns out it was the CEO himself. What had been happening was they're obviously sending emails making it look like they're the CFO or somebody else in the organisation, and they're making them that good that he believed that it was coming legitimately from one person in the organisation, and he was funneling the information back to them. So it's not just person at the desk typing away, all the way up. So it's just something to keep in mind. So, challenge, it's there. You want to secure the data, but you want to give enough control to everybody day to day. So you can lock these computers down and basically stop people from doing anything, and your data is extremely secure, but at the end of the day, if it's going to stop them from doing their work, you're going to get people pushing back and it's all going to just fall in a heap. So you've got to basically work out in your business NFP organisation, whoever you may be, what's going to work and what way are we going to go about doing this. So we can see there on the last bit. So we establish what we want to protect. Credit card details, passports, emails, pictures, contact details, whatever. And from that point forward, then we move into the next section. So I've got questions. There's a Q&A at the end. So unless there's anything specific, that is the end of part 1. Believe it or not. I think Andy's just standing back there fielding away. Hi. In the second part, we'll go into a strategy for mitigating against this, and again, keep it all very high level. But so far, at this point, oh, Andy's. I know we've got a Q&A at the end, but if we've got while it's fresh in everyone's mind.
So just a question on the crypto locker type things. We were hit by one of those. But you just mentioned that it locks everything on your PC. With our situation, we had no issue with things on the PC other than it somehow got into our SharePoint file, and again, it didn't lock everything. It seemed to search out things with names like annual report, things that would have value for us, but it actually left a lot alone. So is that a variant of that? Or?
Yes. So do you want me to repeat the? It's all coming through. Perfect. Yes. There's multiple variants out there. There's countless names now. The list is huge, but different actors are doing different ways of ransomware. So some people are just targeting annual reports, financial details, just a few ones. Other people are just going through and obliterating the whole lot. The other thing we're seeing now is it used to be just on your PC. Now we're seeing them actually hop the network, and they work out if on this PC and I can connect to this PC, I'm going to hop over there and encrypt everything on that one as well. And they'll just spread across as well. So they're getting more advanced as they go along to try and hit more and more people at once. So.
And it also affects the ransom itself too, how much you pay, because the more the locker, crypto locker, or whatever it is, they're doing specifically because they know that information that you hold for years. So if they take it, they're encrypting financial information that basically triples it, so it can charge higher prices for the ransom. And so this is where that cyber crime has become a real industry, because it's a wholesale price approach to it, and there's people out there who are literally speaking. So they'll implant particular people within the organization with a specific bit of ransomware dedicated to that person, that group, whatever. It's really smart what they do. It's
It was fascinating because it needed to be just on the Microsoft SharePoint, but not on our individual stuff. It was only on the sync files, and that was puzzling to me with my naivety. I thought, oh, that's all managed by Microsoft, so we're safe in that space, and that was the only place to go to.
absolutely.
Are there any other questions at this point? One over here. Oh, I'll say
You mentioned the Australia Post typical email scams.
Yes.
Does a regular antivirus protect you against all those sorts of things in general?
Yes and no. They do if they've seen it. The thing about AV, and I'll just quickly touch on this, AV is only good from what it's previously seen effectively. So there's always going to be patient zero. Someone's going to get infected with it. My previous company I worked for, we dealt specifically with emails coming in and looking at what malicious files are coming in, and we would regularly get called up with someone saying, we paid for this service, obviously, and we've still had an email come through. We'd look at that email, look at the file, and find out it's literally only a couple of hours old. They've just pushed it out. So it'll protect you against files that have been around for a while, but newer stuff, not always. So, and there's other mitigations against that as well.
So you have an antique product that actually controls
Yeah.
Any other questions at this stage? I've got one for you that is technical. What's on
Right now.
Oh, cool. Sorry, no question over here?
Specifically, the mobile devices, how you find those? That's a good.
That's another one that we've got, and I'll touch that briefly actually in the second part. We have a strategy against that, and then we can go from there. Perfect.
All right, thank you very much. We'll come back to questions towards the end of the session. Sure. How are we going to put this together?
Thanks again for joining us on this live stream of the webinar. We're currently just having about a 15-minute break while food is served here, so feel free to take a break, toilet break, grab some lunch, and we'd love to have you join us for part 2 and a more extensive Q&A. So thank you for joining us, and we'll be back with you shortly. We'll keep the webcam going, so you'll be able to see what is happening in the room, and we'll be back in about 10 to 15 minutes. Hello again, thanks for sticking with us for this Lunch and Learn event, How to Prevent a Data Disaster. We are shortly to commence section 2, followed by Q&A. So please post any questions you have in the question box, and we will ask those to the presenter and to the room in about 20 minutes or so. So this stage should be 20 minutes, and then Q&A after that. So thanks for sticking with us. We'll be underway in just 1 minute.
Thanks, folks. Please keep enjoying your lunch, but I would like to welcome Adam back, who's eaten the fastest schnitzel in the world, for part 2 of his somewhat scary presentation. So back you come, Adam.
All right. Get that back up. Cool. All right. So, part 2. It's about the same length, and hopefully it's, again, I'm trying to keep it at high level because not everybody has a deep understanding of security principles and things like that. So we're trying to just sort of give you the tools to go back and have a think about what you need to do, and if there's any sort of particular strategies you guys can apply in your businesses as well. So what we'll do, we'll go have a look at some of the first steps of what are we going to do to prevent data disaster, basically. So part 2, let's talk about device control versus content control. So this is where we start talking about USB devices, things being plugged into your PCs and your network. So when we're talking about data exfiltration, there's a couple of different ways you can get the data off the network, but typically, top one, USB devices. So I've got one plugged in right now, but as I said before, people are dropping these in the street, they're leaving them behind, whatever, and you can pick them up, plug them straight into your machine, off you go. Every computer pretty much has USB these days to some extent. Even your phones now, you can plug in USBs to them as well. So we look at, do we want to control from a device control point of view, do we want to control what we plug into the machine? Or do we want to control that, but also we can now look at what content we're actually moving around. So you can plug in a USB device, but now we can start going, well, I don't want documents being moved, or I don't want pictures being moved, or MP3s, or things like that. So that's the next sort of level on. We can actually look at what's being moved and whether we prevent it or allow it. So some examples of sort of, and again, this is sort of a tool. This gives us a bit of visibility. So these are just screenshots out of a particular product endpoint protector, which I've got up the top there. So from a device control point of view, we can go back and see that a particular flash drive has been plugged in by a certain user. So you can see this person plugged this device in and what they did with it. So they copied a bunch of files around the place, or they moved some stuff, or whatever. That's from a device control perspective. What we can also do is USB devices, not normally your really cheap ones, but your more, I guess, mid-range branded ones. Generally, they're all serialized, believe it or not. So there is an individual serial number on every single USB device out there, and what you can actually do is say, I'm only going to let these 10 serial numbers be plugged into my machines. And what that'll do is then, if someone comes along with their one from home or one off the street and they plug it in, the software can actually just stop them in their tracks and say, sorry, can't be plugged in, has to be one of the company-approved devices or something like that. And that's just USBs. You can do that with CD drives. You could do that with even keyboards. You can stop people plugging their own keyboards in, things like that. People find strange things to plug into computers. Content aware is a little bit more advanced. Is basically, as you can see that someone's copied a picture from A to B and it's gone in and looked at it and gone, okay, well, we don't want people copying pictures, or they've taken a screenshot, something on their machine, or maybe they've got a, you've got some schematics, or you've got something that you're working on and you don't want that leaving the network. You can prevent that from being copied off and put onto a USB device. Or when we're talking about content, email, browsers, Dropbox, iCloud, all of those sort of things, we can now start preventing people from copying files into their iCloud and then getting to them from home. So that's the more advanced way of doing it, I guess. So I guess, as I touched on before, you've got to sort of set out the range of how you're going to do this, because if you don't know what's important to the business, or you don't know what you're trying to prevent against, then the whole thing's not going to really go anywhere. So first thing you've really got to do is you've got to decide what's important. So what is critical to the organisation? And that could be financial records, personal data, credit cards, bank details, images, photos, whatever. And that will vary depending on the business or the organisation. So what works for one person may not work for the other. So that's really step one, is work out what you're trying to prevent from getting out there. Personal details, addresses. Again, don't want to keep bashing them, but the Red Cross, they had a lot of sensitive data, personal data people were writing down on their forms and things like that. That was getting out there that maybe people didn't want to see. So that protect against that. This is probably going to go a little bit more in depth. I won't go too far, but do you want to block based on a type of file? And this goes back to what we're talking about financial documents. Typically, they're going to be like a Word document. So do we want to protect against people copying Word documents off the network? Or media, so you can prevent people from copying music on that they're not supposed to, things like that. So it's a list of things at the bottom there. It's probably a bit hard to see, but you can basically start deciding exactly what you want people to copy on and off the network. It's really drilling down further into lots of different, and this is actually a really good one for the content filtering. So you can see there, I'm sure it's probably a little bit blurry, but the top part of that, we can actually look into document files, Word docs, Excel documents, all that sort of stuff, and look for credit card numbers. We can look for things like your driver's license details, that sort of stuff, and it'll actually scan. So if that document's not password protected, it'll log in, it'll look into that file, scan it, hey, I found a credit card number, and it can actually stop it from being transferred off the network. So it's actually doing a file-by-file scan and working out what that document actually contains. You can even do dictionary sort of blocking. So you can have a list of words that maybe you don't want people, so if you've got the word confidential, or maybe you have the word personal details, there's 2 words, you can block against that. So if it finds the word confidential in a document, it actually stops it from being copied off the network. So that's, again, content filtering is getting more in depth about sort of what we're doing. So I guess we've established the what. So what are we trying to stop? Documents, whatever. And the where. So where are we trying to prevent these documents from going? I said before, USB isn't the only way to get data off the network. So there are other ways of doing it. Some of those are, said again, Google Drive, Dropbox, Skype, Outlook, that sort of stuff. So just because you stop people from plugging in random USB devices and running away doesn't mean they can't just copy it into a Skype conversation or copy it into the body of an email or something like that. So there, again, you've got to work out, and you don't want to prevent people too much from doing their day-to-day work. So if it is a requirement that these people send these out via Outlook or by email, then this is something you need to take into consideration. So if people are sending particular documents via email to other people, you're not going to want to stop them from doing that because, again, you're going to get back to that, well, I can't do my work, and users are going to push back, they're going to continuously call up, and eventually you're just going to turn it off because it's going to all get too hard. So, again, work out what's legitimate, what's acceptable, what's not. It's a policy sort of thing. It's a thought process, really. Encryption is, again, I don't want to dive too deep into it, but you can go as far as saying, all right, there's two ways of doing it. You could say only these USB devices, or hey, anybody can bring their USB device in from home, but for me to be able to copy the data onto that USB device, I have to put a password in and encrypt it. So if I lose it and someone plugs it in, they're going to get a password prompt popped up saying, hey, you need to put a password in to get access to these files. So it's another way of mitigating against losing USB devices or someone losing their computer or something like that, encrypting them. And there's different ways of doing that. Some solutions will let you sort of do that as you plug things in and that sort of stuff. So again, encryption is another interesting one. Mobile device management. So this was a question that came up just before. So we'll just stop on this one and mention a few things. So in 2015, going back to that report before, so 1.4 billion smartphones were bought. And that's not including all the phones that are already out there. So that's just on top of what we've already got. You know, people have two for work and things like that. So there's a lot of them out there. Graphic there. You remember that these are effectively an extremely powerful little computer. Yeah, a lot of them now can be plugged into keyboards. They can be USBs plugged into them. You can plug them into your monitor and work from them, that sort of stuff. So they are effectively a portable computer, and pretty much everyone's got a smartphone of some sort. We're not really using 3310 Nokias anymore, so they are something that needs to be mitigated against, or at least thought of. Again, you don't have to lock them down, but it's just something to keep in the back of your mind. You need to protect them. You need to be certain of what data they're getting access to, and also that last point's a really good one. If you don't have a password or a code on your phone, please think about putting one on there. Doesn't matter even if it's your postcode or something that's probably easy to guess. At least having something on there is better than nothing. And a lot of phones now, they actually encrypt the data on there. So if you lose it and someone plugs a USB into it, they can't get the data off unless they put the passcode in. So again, that's a simple way of protecting the data that's getting out there. You don't have to have fancy solutions. You don't have to buy anything. The fact that you've got a phone with a password on it, it's a good start. And the graphic there, I'm sure everyone's read it by now, so we'll continue on. Auditing and enforcing. So this is just, I'm just going to quickly tab into it. When you're first setting this up, you don't want to just turn it on and everyone throws their hands in the air and goes, I can't do anything anymore. What you want to do, you probably want to audit what you're doing, work out what people want to do and what they need to do for their day-to-day work, build a policy based on that, and then go to an enforcing phase where you actually force them to actually adhere to the policy. So a few pros there for auditing is obviously no restrictions, and you can quietly watch users and see what they're doing and that sort of stuff, but you can't stop the data from being removed. So if someone runs off with the data, there's nothing you can do about it, and it's probably not going to get you out of trouble if someone calls up and wants more information about why the data was breached. The enforcing obviously is the opposite, but the con is you need to have it set correctly so that people don't, again, throw their hands in the air. Bottom point really should be at the top because it's probably a bit easier to see. The most important thing is not to just say it's too hard and just not do it. Because the amount of times I've heard people say, we don't do it because it's just too hard. I don't know. All the way through school I could have said that, and you can see exactly. So there's a lot of things a lot of times you can say it's just too hard and let it go. But I mean, putting a passcode on your phone, it's easy. And for the half a second it takes you to type in the password on your phone, you've at least closed a gap there where the data could have been breached. So what are we doing for time? I can't even remember. 45. Yeah, we're good. Continue. So, briefly, how does it look? So, what does it look to an end user? We talk about all this sort of stuff, but what does the user actually see? Because at the moment I'm talking about this black box that just sort of magically does stuff. Endpoint Protector 4, so I'm not going to plug them. It's just one of the products that we use to basically mitigate against a lot of these threats that are out there. What the user sees, they see a little tray icon in the bottom corner of their screen, and that's basically it. That's all they see. All the stuff is done on the other end by the admin or by the person who's looking after it. The only time they would need to do anything is, for this particular case, you can set these policies up, and if that person walks off the network and takes their laptop out to a business or something to do some work, and they have to plug a USB device in, and they don't have the ability to, they actually have ways of calling up and saying, oh, I need access for 30 minutes, and you can use this little screen here to give them access. So there's ways, don't be too afraid of, well, if we've locked them down and now they've gone off the network, how are they going to be able to do any work? There are ways to. The only other time they'll see something is if you this. So this is an example of someone copying. I've got a policy to say you're not allowed to copy pictures. That's just what the policy is. And so they'll get a little pop-up, the customized message saying, hey, this is not what we're allowed to do. Contact, you can put whatever you want in their contact admin if they want more help or something like that. So this is because someone was trying to transfer a file via Firefox internet browser. And the admin, you get a fancy, nice-looking console. Pretty much everything has a fancy, nice-looking console these days. So it's one of them. And you got all your options down the left of the different pieces and the modules, the device control, the content aware, the mobile device. You click on them, you set up what you want. But they're not some behemoth sort of script black and white or black and green screen that you've got to sit there and type away at. That's all gone. It's all nice web interfaces that you can click and type and press save, and it all just happens in the background. So what we'll do, so I'll wrap some things up, and this is basically from the very beginning. So first point, it's not difficult to implement a good solution. I talked about a lot there. There are a lot of policies and there's a lot of ways of going about it, but at the base of it, again, the phone and keypad situation, it's not difficult to set something up, but planning is key. You don't want to just go out, buy the own first product to come across and then try and make it fit. You want to actually do a bit of planning, work out what's going to work. This will, of course, stop you from running into issues down the track where you just go, oh, it's all too hard, I'm not going to bother. As an organisation, you need to know what's worth protecting. Customer details, credit cards, that sort of stuff. Correctly set up a good solution, be it whatever it may be. It should look after itself. It should be low touch. So it shouldn't take much sort of user interaction, shouldn't take much admin interaction. And it should just run quietly in the background. And the only time you're going to get phone calls is if someone does something they're not supposed to, or they want access to something that's outside of your normal day-to-day policy. So, remember, again, you are a tiger. There it is the second time. Reporting will eventually become mandatory. At the moment, it is only mandatory very high up, like federal government. It will trickle down. Again, state government will be next. Anyone who interacts with them, then again, businesses over a certain size, that sort of stuff. So eventually, it will become mandatory. So if you start planning at least. Don't even have to implement it. If you've got something in place so that when this comes around becomes something you need to do, it's there ready to go, saves you a headache later on. And that's it. Hopefully it wasn't too long.
Good. Nice to hear it.
Yeah. That's it.
Any more questions from the room?
It's a bit of an interesting one for you. I don't know how we're going to answer it.
Everybody, just as my back calls and having a good chat through them. But specifically, I like to remember in Auckland, I think she used to sort of stage
But, may or may not be able to answer this very well, but not to be a complete doomsayer, but with all the products and things that are out there, we can't see where it comes from. We hear of high-end companies being attacked, your mum and pa being at home being attacked. How do we trust what we purchase, what we use, in terms of how do we know there's not already something in that
product itself?
There's not already a backdoor Trojan of some kind buried in that little buried in there.
Yeah.
Because they're not to be
no, that's to be as nice as possible. There are certain countries I probably wouldn't buy software from. That's my first thing. But it's really, there's a lot of companies that are out there that have been around for a long time. Interestingly enough, a lot of security software comes from like Israel. It also comes from a lot of the sort of outside of Russia, those sort of areas, because they are finding they're getting hacked all around the place, and they've had to build up their own solutions to mitigate against it. So, yeah, it's an interesting one. No, it is an interesting one, and it's worth. I guess it's worth doing the research behind the scenes and that sort of stuff. But quite regularly, there are frameworks out there for these companies to have certifications from other places where they're actually required to give them their software, and they'll pull it apart and make sure there's nothing in there. So there are strategies for that. It just depends on the product, and some people are more willing than others. Go for it.
So guys, coming up, obviously, we've got a couple of we've worked with these guys, so we're confident that it is best we can tell best process, of course. The other thought that I have there, we're having sort of chat at lunch on the table, is that this sort of thing for mine is probably going to us. It's the technology itself, but it's also the human part of it. So I think you guys out there that don't currently have a policy or a framework or something that's documented that we have a conversation internally about, do that first. Would be my strong advice. So set what your frameworks are for your organisation. Just have a bit of a conversation about what you think your exposure is likely to do, and then do the human thing first, and then worry about the technology second.
Yeah, we have standard operating procedures for so many things out there these days that security may as well be on the list as well. So
yeah, I'm sure it's just the 473 policy. So I'm sure everybody wears them all do. But I genuinely encourage that to just have this conversation. So that everybody's good. It's a little bit silly still to finish on it. It's not spoken about the table. If you want to be proper secure, you actually have to operate from this. So it's always about volume, risk, and productivity. And when you find that balance, it's going to depend on your own organisation, the sort of data you have, and the folks that work with you, as well as interconnection to big corporates and governments, so you guys are a whole easy access back into some of that is actually more effective. Who has a question at the back of the room? So, we should take one and then we should do the microphone because everyone talking to a microphone.
Excuse me. Just like it's a free-flowing approach. We have strategy and plan, then also technology, but then we also because at the end of the day, it's the way you can have the best strategy, the best technology, if you don't educate the users, you still have that gap. So just remember, it's a free-flowing approach.
I cannot agree more. With the educating users, because that at the end of the day, that's primarily where most of this is coming in. So just teaching them, if you're not expecting something, even if you are expecting something from AusPost, but general rule, if it's not something you're expecting to see, do not click on it. At least ask someone in the IT team or something. Chances are they've probably seen it. Worst case scenario, you can go to their website directly. It's like AGL. Go to their website directly and log in, rather than clicking this email that looks like it's from them, because at least you know that you've gone there and you put the address in and you know that it's secure as well. So yeah, educating users is huge, huge.
Yeah, that is a challenge, and I understand that is a challenge for the organisation. You should go find IT literacy, who the users of the other end. It's very hard. I get that, how education piece within the organisation in terms of everybody. But again, if that's part of your conversation, you expect some how much you possibly do this, so that you at least have this conversation with the organisation. Any other question?
Given that the way these invasions into our technology occur and how rapidly they change, is there some updating news service that can help us to keep abreast of what's going on, how those encryption devices are sneaking in? What you said about looking for an email that's got AGL or Australian Post, well, I'd like to know a news site that I can tap into to be keeping up to date with
That's the stuff. That's a good one, actually. I'll answer the first part of it. There are plenty of sites out there, but they're not really. The unfortunate thing is they're not really geared towards non-IT people generally. So I've come across a whole heap of them. There's Hacker News and all sorts of things, and these guys are generally reporting things as they're coming out. But I mean, even for me, sometimes reading, I have to read it twice to work out what they're actually saying, because they can put a bunch of jargon in there that changes depending on the country you live in and that sort of stuff. So yeah, and the problem with the mainstream media is generally stuff doesn't come out unless it's got a pretty picture or a pretty name, or they can market it. So yeah, that's actually an interesting. I mean, at EMT, we've got like blogs and things like that where we write what's out there. Again, I guess it's not really a for your sort of more lower down end users. We write for high end, sort of the higher end of it, but to be honest, it's something we could probably do, to be honest.
Thank you. That's good. We'll actually look at this slightly
Oh yeah, I knew I've got something.
Well, what also is that session, when we set out selecting one to useful resources together that might be useful, we'll make sure we survive those just so we as I said, it's probably starts like this is so it is nice to have this the way that it's presented, but we'll do something. Any other questions? About anything? No. Excellent. Guys, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. I now want to introduce Rob Hosler back to who's now at Adelaide. Lauren's the account manager for those that don't know Lauren, fabulous resource for you guys. So Lauren's role is to work with you guys. To help you out all that stuff. So those that don't know Lauren, please say hi. John Winter, who is the state management, so really how to rush away into state. So no one has got a long history of reading basic products, and he's pretty experienced at this. John is a very John. So
I don't know if that's a compliment or not. Thank you. Thanks for the introduction. So as Andy mentioned, unfortunately John couldn't be here today, so just bear with me as I go through the slide deck. Any questions along the way, just pop your hand up and we can answer it either during or at the end, either or. So ACER is sort of, I guess, a new partner with us, and as Andy mentioned, I've worked with them for quite a long time as well. So they've got a really good product that they bring out to the marketplace, and they've been able to do it at a really great price for the non-for-profit sector, which is excellent. So why ACER? So other than they're really great warranty and service providers as well. They've really got really great products, which I'll dive into a little bit later, and around their robustness and the quality of the devices. But they also have some local factories here as well. So they've got a large factory in Sydney where all the devices are assembled. The warehouse is designed to ship large quantities at a time, so they could get things out pretty fast. They've got an integration centre as well. So for those IT people in the room, they can load your image prior to it being shipped out to your organisation as well, which is quite handy. ACER pride themselves on the quality of their devices. So they've been tested in extreme temperatures. They've had hinge testing, vibration testing, drop and pressure testing as well. ACER also have their own dust defender technology in their notebooks that is essentially a reversing mechanism in the cooling fan, so that it prevents the dust from accumulating inside of the notebooks, heating up and you know, having some major issues. ACER and connecting up. So as we mentioned, this is a new partner. It's been going for about 4 months or so now. Yeah, been really, really great. They've been real supporters of the not-for-profit sector. So ACER's worked with our team to offer the best possible price on the specific product ranges. Has included 3-year warranty for their notebooks as well. So we've got some product guides on the tables for you. The products that we've been given access to is in the education range. So in the education range, the durability of the products is that 1 step higher as well, because obviously it's got to be durable enough to work and operate in the classroom and with kids. So they're designed to be, thrown around a little bit. So really, really great, made out of really good products, and like I mentioned, it comes with the 3-year warranty. So we've got access to ACER servers, PCs, notebooks, tablets, Chromebooks, monitors and projectors. If there's something on the price list that, in the book or on our website that you're interested in and you can't find it, let me know and we can check the availability and the pricing for you. ACER themselves are happy to work with you too. So John's based here locally in Adelaide, and he's more than happy to come out to any organisation and have a discussion and design the best hardware fit on a price to performance base. So their notebook products. As we move up the range, you'll see that they have some better specification options and features available in both the notebook and the 2-in-1 ranges. So some of the key products that we'll look into are the B117, the Aspire R13 and the Switch 12. So they're sort of, I guess, the key products that are out in the marketplace at the moment that are really great for businesses and organisations. Thunderbolt 3, it's here. USB-C is now, USB-C is now available. And this is available in the Aspire Switch 12 and the R13 as well. So USB-C, aka Thunderbolt, allows ultra-fast transfer of power, data and high-res display just within the 1 port. So that's a really cool feature. So the B117. So I just want to take a moment to touch on this product. This is a really, really great seller. It's military spec compliant, meaning it's been tested for its robustness and durability, and it's been designed to pass a series of rigorous tests. It comes with great specs, and it's at a really, really affordable price, and it's sort of in that entry-level value range, but with some really good options. It also is available in a touch and a non-touch option. Spill resistant, something that's really cool. I know that there's a couple of people in our office that could use the spill resistant. So this is the water resistant is including the keyboard, touchpad, and hinge frame as well. So some of the main parts where the usually water would get if you spilled it on there. 2-in-1 products. The Aspire R13, I am a huge fan of this product. I've got one personally. I really, really love it. So it gives you the practicality of a notebook and then the convenience of a tablet as well. So it comes in a light, thin design without compromising on any of the features or the specifications. Some of the key features is its Gorilla Glass display, 8-hour battery life, front and rear camera, and the ability to change the scene depending on your work or play scenario. Yep, we're good. So the Aspire Switch 12. So this is probably one of the, I guess, most popular devices out in the marketplace at the moment. It's really similar to the Microsoft Surface, but it's got a more affordable price associated to it. The kickstand can be adjusted to nearly any angle. It's got a magnetic keyboard hinge as well, which allows you to change it from a notebook to a tablet effortlessly, which is really handy. It comes with the latest technology and a lot of configurable options as well, with up to 8 hours battery life, and also comes with an active pen too, as does the R13 actually as well. And 3 years warranty, yes. Yes, 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 yes. I'm missing some of my slides. Technical issues here?
Can I ask a question?
Go for it.
What's the Gorilla Glass?
It is, we don't want to talk about it though. It's just really, I guess, hardened glass, it's scratch resistant, so if you've run a key over it or a knife as well, you can. There's actually a demo that I might send out to everyone as well, where there's an example of the a chef using the R13 screen as a chopping board. So it just means that it's really resistant and durable. So, I mean, don't try it, but let them try it. Let them try it and test those things. But yeah, it's really handy. Yeah, you don't scratch it. Your display is really clean all the time and no issues with visibility. Oh, yeah, that's okay. There was only a couple of slides left. I might just touch. We don't necessarily need to see it. They've got a great docking station lineup as well across all of their product ranges too. So one, in fact, is specifically a graphics dock, which has a graphics card inbuilt into the dock, which is really handy for those people who are using. There we go. Perfect. Thank you. Easy done. Yeah, cool, thanks. So that has the video card included. Soon to be released, early next year, is the wireless Pro Dock. So this is for the Switch 12. Essentially, no more cables. So it'll allow all of your devices to connect effortlessly to the Pro Dock, and you will not be restrained any longer. So it works with AD technology, so it's close peer-to-peer connectivity. Yeah. And that's about it. Thank you. Just quickly, while I got you, the product guides that are on the table are slightly out of date. So if you are interested in any of the products that are in there, please contact me and let me know, and I can give you some updated pricing, as well as we can look at changing some of the specifications or whatever it might be. Done.
Nice, thank you. Questions from Right, thank you for listening to the message from our sponsors. So that actually wraps up, I think, Nathan, formal proceedings for today. So I just like to, on behalf of everything up, is the Amber, thank you all very much for your time this afternoon. Really appreciate it. As I mentioned earlier, it's the first time we've done this, and we're hoping that it's going to be useful today going as we get there. So any feedback, good or bad, any topics you'd like us to cover in the future, because we'd like to do that. And please feel free to stay around and start on anything else from our interviews. I'm sure the drinks will stay open and you're welcome to stay around as long as you.
Cool, thank you very much for joining us for this live stream test event, and we thank you for your patience and bearing with us over the hour and 3/4 or hour and a half, it looks like. We are hoping to bring these events to a city near you very soon, in the first half of next year. So keep an eye out on our newsletters. We will send a copy of the recording and links to the slides out to everyone who registered for this live feed. So thank you for joining us, and hope to see you on another webinar or at an event in the near future. Thank you.